Putting myself in the head of Richard Dawkins, I am quite sure that he believes that there's no reason there would not be race-based IQ differences, given the fact that there are such obvious differences in the way genes express themselves on the basis of racial classification elsewhere. So if you and I have relatively thicker lips than most white people, although of course they're thick-lipped white people and thin-lipped black people, but still, it's clearly a specification. Why would that not be true of brain configurations? I'm sure that he would say that. I would guess he would rather not say it.
Give us a flavor of question response that exemplifies this interview. You know, what was your favorite exchange with him? Something with meat on the bones.
Okay. One question that I asked him was, if it's all about genes, it's not about organisms fighting to survive, but under his theory, it's all about just the gene wants to survive. That's what it's all about. If that's what it's all about, and if he's right, which I assume that he is, although there are people who don't think so, how does he find wonder in the world? Isn't it kind of depressing if that's all that's going on? You know, if that means that all of the love, all of the Beethoven, all of the soul, I don't know why I'm thinking about them, but you know, all of that is just a kind of an accident in the same way as we perceive color, but the colors aren't really there. That's not what the world, quote unquote, really is. We just perceive color. I said, how do you be happy? Doesn't your theory depress you? And he said that no, it doesn't, that even if it's all an illusion, that's all we've got, and he enjoys the illusion. But I could tell that, well, he said he had been asked it before, but I could tell that he liked that question. Then the audience got to ask questions, and they on these little cards. And many of them were along the lines of, are we genetically programmed for violence, for example?
Somebody else screened the cards?
Yes, luckily. Although a couple of interesting ones got through anyway. But yeah, somebody was screening the cards, and then I would read the card. And you have to time it. Like on one of the nights, I ran out of cards. So then I had to come up with some other questions of my own very quickly and things like that. But that can be kind of fun. It's like you're driving a car. And so, yeah, and the audience was rapt. You could tell that every word he said, they were hanging on him. It was not my audience, as in I was not the star of this. The little things that I do, the kind of jokes that I make only worked so well. They were into him. It was not me. And I was enjoying driving the car. So, yeah. And so
he's an Irishman.
No, he's English.
Aha.
He's got the perfect Danish accent. And so I'm sure that they did London and probably somewhere north of that, etc. And then they got to Ireland. There were 22 stops on the tour. And I must admit,
you didn't talk about the atheism stuff at all?
Did we do atheism? Yeah. I didn't, because we see so much of that debate in America, and I was more interested in the spiders and the genes and stuff like that. But the questions asked about it. One person's question was, is he close to any people who are atheists? And if so, you know, how does he manage?
You mean people who are not atheists?
Yeah, who are not atheists.
Yeah.
And what he essentially said was that he is not close to anyone who is not atheist. And he said that there's some scientists. He's really baffled. Talk about me being baffled by Trump voters. He is baffled that someone in particular can be a scientist and also be a devout, non-atheist. And he says that he's on both nights. He said that in some cases, when a scientist says that they believe in God, they mean it in a very hazy, general way that has nothing to do with the earth being 6,000 years old and Moses and Mary and all of that. But he said he knows some scientists who really do believe both in, frankly, truth, the universe is billions and billions of years old, but then also believe on another level that the earth is only 6,000 years old, et cetera, and that they kind of compartmentalize, and he's baffled by that. And I said, I'm not, because people need a sense of belonging. People need a sense of we-ness, and that can trump logic itself. And you and I have talked about that. And I said, I can completely see how somebody could know the truth, but then also compartmentalize their brain in such a way that they kind of pretend to believe something else. I've seen it in very religious people because they like having a tribe. It's not that it gives their life a sense of meaning. They like that there are other people who pretend or do believe these things. And that matters to people. Most people aren't loners or people who want to march to the beat of their own drum. And it's easy to say that you do, but that's not the natural human condition. Most people want to have a tribe. So I get it, but he 2 times said that he didn't.
Does he believe in race as a useful category of social analysis?
We didn't talk about that, but I am quite sure. I'm trying to think of somewhere where he's addressed it, and maybe my memory has faded, but I'm quite sure he knows that race is a biological construct. There are genetic features that you can see that make it clear that somebody is the color of you or me, as opposed to somebody who is Asian and has a certain configuration of the eyes. All of that is real. There are, of course, intermediate cases. They're not, strict lines, but race is real, and I'm sure that he knows that. In terms of race as a social categorization, I'm sure he wishes that we could get past it. Like, from everything I've read of him, I'm sure that's what he would say. But he would definitely say that the idea that race is a biological fiction is fiction, which it is. I mean, there's no denying it. So that's me speaking for Richard Dawkins.
I'll make this the last of these kinds of questions, but what about Charles Murray, IQ, genetics? You say he believes in genes. Genes are the thing. But what about the idea that genetic differences between population subgroups might be an important factor in explaining disparities in performance and things like that?
I have not seen him jump in.
You say he and Gould, excuse me for interrupting, he and Stephen Jay Gould, the late great paleontologist, were at loggerheads about something. What was that?
Oh, well, that was the whole issue of, there are 2 things. Gould believing that there's some things that evolve not for any particular purpose and that maybe are just taken on to serve some other purpose later, but they're things that just happen. Like a whale might have a black side and a white side of its under jaw, and that has no purpose whatsoever. Dawkins believes that every single feature has a purpose and that's how evolution works. So they were at loggerheads about that.
About evolution.
And then also Gould, along with Richard Lewontin, thought that evolution jumps, that there are these big leaps, and that a creature can become almost another creature much more quickly than Dawkins supposes. Dawkins is more incremental. And to the extent that anybody cares what I think, from reading both of them, I always found Dawkins more convincing, although I also read everything Stephen Jay Gould wrote, and he taught me how to write.
Punctuated equilibrium, wasn't that?
Punctuated equilibrium. Exactly.
Yeah.
Where were we? Race and IQ.
Charles Murray and that, yeah.
This is going to be the only thing people clip from this show. But I'm not going to speak carefully. I'm just going to say, putting myself in the head of Richard Dawkins, I am quite sure, I am reasonably sure, I haven't seen him pronounce on this, that he believes that there's no reason that there would not be race-based IQ differences, given the fact that there are such obvious differences in the way genes express themselves on the basis of racial classification elsewhere. So if you and I have relatively thicker lips than most white people, although, of course, there are thick-lipped white people and thin-lipped black people, but still, there's clearly a specification. Why would that not be true of brain configurations? I'm sure that he would say that. I would guess he would rather not say it. But that's my guess. And maybe he has pronounced upon it, but I don't remember seeing it.